All right, so we're going to be reviewing chapter 18, 19, and 20 tonight. They were fairly short though. I think it was 19 that was kind of, 19 was kind of lengthy. But then it turned around in 20. Oh no, 20 looked like it was 2. Okay, well, so really important chapters we're reviewing, detecting fraudulent identification, notary misconduct, and notary liability. So this is some really important stuff here. So like I said, if you have not got a chance to read it, definitely read it when you do get a chance. So phony identification, how it's created. Unfortunately, you have people who are masters at doing that. So we definitely want to make sure we're paying attention when we're checking IDs. Sometimes, especially for those of us who are new, you just kind of want to see the ID and hurry up and get done. But you do want to actually examine the ID front and back. Make sure that the ends are not coming up, to where it looks like it's been tampered or changed in any kind of way. You definitely want to make sure of that. So we're not just checking to make sure their name is correct and ask them if the ID matches the current address, or making sure that it's not expired. We're actually checking to make sure that it has not been a fraudulent ID just made up just to use. You'd be surprised how many people would try to pose for someone else. It's ridiculous. Imposture. Is it imposture or imposture? Imposture for this next one. Hello, whoever just joined.
Hello.
So we're doing 18, 19, and 20. If you didn't get a chance to read it, that's okay. Many of us are behind. So we're just going to go through it together. And you can just read it when you get a chance. Counterfeiting, like all of these are different terms that they use to describe IDs who are false. They're false, they're made up. Somebody just made it so they can pose as somebody else. Make sure the cardware is consistent with the date of issue. It's kind of like they want you to be an investigator, right? But it's only so much that we can do. If anything, you could always put in your notes anything that seems fishy about the notarization, or you could just decline it altogether. Those are two things that you can do to safeguard yourself in the situation. Because if it comes back on you, you can put on there, everything matched, but I did kind of notice, something, but I didn't want to say, so at least you'll have it in your notes what occurred at the time of notarization. Misspell words. I always ask, or somebody may bring it to your attention before you even have to ask, like, yeah, they misspelled my name, but some misspellings, you can kind of tell, like, okay, no. If they, like with me, Fully Love, there are 3 L's and then the 2 L's put together. Sometimes I have to look and make sure that I put 2 L's, because sometimes I can be typing fast and that 1 L next to the I will look like 2 L's, and then I'll keep going. And then I'll have to go back like, oh man, I missed the L. So those type of things, that can be a mistake. I make that mistake all the time. I've only had the name for 12 years, so I make the mistake all the time. But other instances, it's like, no, that's not, like, it's how somebody spell check, when you're texting someone and spell check will just change your whole word. That's a telltale sign, like, okay, no, that's not right. Unlikely similarities, definitely looking at the characteristics of the person's height and their eye color. If you just look and all of a sudden this says blue eyes and you're looking like, you look like you got brown eyes in your head, and like it's either. Some people do have contacts, but what if it's not? Like, it's just stuff like that, because people really don't pay that much attention to IDs. I mean, because what are we taught to check? We're taught to check the name, we're taught to check the issuance date and the expiration date. You're not gonna look and see that the height is 5'2" and the person standing in front of you definitely is not 5'2". It's just kind of not gonna come to your mind to think like that. But these are things that you pay attention to when you're checking people's IDs.
Can I share something with you? I took a
Yes.
this Marion. I look a hot mess at my head all.
Hey, Marion.
Feeling a little under the weather, so that's why I'm in my bed.
Oh,
But
I'm sorry.
I took a this little thing about ID check for something else because I'm an insurance agent and we've been getting a lot of fraud stuff coming into the offices and stuff like that with applications with the IDs. And so what they told us to look for is like things that they can't change on their faces. And it was so weird because like all of us failed the test.
Oh,
right?
goodness.
Because you never know, because they were telling us to look at the person the way that their ears are shaped. If the ears look different from their picture, their ID, and they're in front of you, look for the earlobe. If it's like put to the ear.
I
or
learned that too, but you can never see people's ears really in their ID pictures.
Well, sometimes you can't.
Unless they're like unless it's like a guy and they're like really big.
Because sometimes the ears are pointed. Because sometimes the ears are pointed, at the top, and then if they're in front of you, the ear round, and to check like for the clip there here under the nose and the lip, because some people have that dip there and some people don't. To look for that.
Is at all on mine.
And so they were like, oh, I never would think to look for stuff like that and see if they got like the buck eyes or if their eyes
and
are
the
like
V area of their
Oh my God.
of their face. Can you see
but
me?
you would never
They
think
said
about
to check
that.
this area right here. Yeah, because this never changes. People's eye shape don't change, and people's noses don't change. So this area right here, the V of the face. Right. So even if they lose weight or gain weight or whatever, their face, these are not going to change.
That won't change. Correct. Yeah. I was like, oh, you never would think about that, but yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Now let's see. Inappropriate patterns and textures or a lack of official imprints. Now you guys know they do have a ID book that you can purchase. Hold on just a second. Sound like somebody was knocking on my door. Hold on. Anaya and Brayden, what's that?
I think my mute button is frozen.
Okay, sorry about that, guys. I am back. My like I said, my son has company. And I was hearing knocking. I didn't know if it was them or somebody was at my door. Okay. Back to what we were talking about. Okay. Inappropriate patterns and textures. So what I was saying was the NNA and some other notary supplies stores online, they do have the ID book. So if you're interested, definitely purchase it. I haven't purchased it. I don't have it. But it's supposed to.
I took the how to
$6.
I took the how to recognize a fake ID or how to identify fake ID class by Bill Soroka on Saturday. And he had that guy speaking, and the guy was saying that to get the ID book, like the places, like they want you to be able to prove you are someone who needs the information because they won't just sell it to anybody. So I didn't really get any clarity on that. So are you saying that we can just buy it from a specific place that I don't have to show a whole bunch of information to?
You can buy it the notary association stores. You know, the notary
Okay.
stores they supply. And they'll probably have their own way of identifying. Like if you like, I was commissioned. I applied through the NNA for my commission,
Mhm.
and and I also have a membership with them. So I'm sure if I buy the book, they already know I'm a commission notary. So yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah. But
Okay.
if that is true, then you probably want to stick to the notary stores to get it because they're going to want to verify your commission, and they can easily do so by you filling out whatever form they're going to have you fill it out.
Okay.
That's true because they ask you if you're NNA certified, if you have an NNA number or your commission number, because they don't sell them on Amazon anymore. They don't do that anymore. So
Mm.
it's pretty much through the NNA, and it's $25.96 on the NNA.
The ID book.
Yeah, $25.95. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Inappropriate typewriting. The name of the ID's issuing state or agency should be graphically printed on the card, not typed or handwritten. Okay. So many different things you got to look for. That's the word I was looking for, alteration. Definitely want to make sure the ID has not been tampered with or altered in any way. Now let's see. Change to conform to an unauthorized person. And like you guys were saying with the face, because when you take a picture and you use some of those programs like Canva, for instance, and you remove your background, it's not going to keep everything. It's going to remove something that needs to be there, Like I said on my ID, which you guys just had me look, I noticed on one side, you can't see my ear at all. You see my earrings, but you can't see my ear on one side. You can see the ear on the other side, but my ears are pinned to my face. Like they don't, like, they're just pinned down. So you can't see them anymore. You can't see them now. Look, you can't see my ears. I have no ears. Let's see, raised edges around a photograph. Yeah. Those are the first things you would look at is somebody posting or pasting a picture on there. Like you're going to definitely be able to tell that. That would be one of the first things I would look at anyway. And then, like I said, noticing those identifying characteristics, the height, the weight, the eye color. What's another one? Is it hair color? It's not hair color, right? You don't have hair color on there, do you? Let me see.
No, because people change their hair color.
Right, all the time. I know I do. I know I do. If I wasn't growing my hair back, my hair would definitely be a different color right now. Let me see. It has sex. Oh, that's one. That is another one too, guys.
Now.
Yeah, that is another one. My height is wrong, but they told me I couldn't fix it, which is dumb.
Oh, they did like that to me too.
I'm like, why? They're like, oh, I'm like, I'm not that height anymore. So yeah, I shrunk.
My license said I'm 5'5", but at the doctor's office, like, oh no, you're 5'3.5". I'm like,
oh, that's a big difference.
I know. So,
Just an inch
but
off.
I couldn't change it.
That is so dumb.
Yeah.
I shrunk when I had kids, so.
Oh wow.
Dropped the whole inch. So yeah, I'm like, I don't know why y'all won't change it because it has the wrong whatever. But no, I don't even see eye color on here. Well, you know what? Maybe they're not doing that anymore. Or maybe it's because I'm here. See, I'm from Michigan. And in Michigan, they did have the eye color on there, I thought. Eye color, hair color. So this just has my date of birth, expiration date, my sex, my height, issue date.
Ours has eye color, New Jersey.
Okay. Let me see the back, what the back says. No. That's weird. But like I said, maybe it's state specific. Because I know for sure in Michigan, they do have that. Okay. Moving on. Raised edges, covered official seals of signatures. That's a good one. Because most of us know what the different pictures and things are. Like on my ID for Florida, it has the picture of the state overlapping my picture. So if someone was to alter that, that symbol wouldn't be overlapping. It would be up under, you know?
Oh, mhm.
That is so crazy. Inconsistencies in color or texture, exactly. Smudges and erasures, which may indicate tampering. Ultraviolet light can reveal interruptions. Anybody have a light? I know some people were purchasing them. The light that you put over the ID, and it can show you the things that are supposed to be there, as opposed to the ones that. What is that noise? Okay. And let's see, inappropriate laminations, plastic coverings, possibly holding new photographs in place. An ID stating do not laminate should never be laminated. But aren't they already? Like, they're already like, oh wow, look at that. On the new Florida ID, it's like a holographic picture of myself on there too. These new IDs are something else. I was like, okay, that's nice. Signatures varying between that on the ID and that on the document or in the notary's journal. Now, see, I don't know about that because I definitely don't sign the same all the time. And I wouldn't be able, you know, like, are you able to tell, like, oh, they didn't curve their J the way they curved it? Like, I don't know. I don't know how that would be, how that would make a difference. You know, I guess maybe if it was like, I don't know, it would have to be like really obvious, the signature change, right? Somebody signing differently than what they, because I sign all type of ways. Sometimes I don't, sometimes you can't see what it says, sometimes you can. It just depends on how I'm feeling that day. Let's see. Detecting false identification. Ideally, the notary should be familiar with the type of identification document used to identify a signer. This familiarity makes it easier to spot discrepancies and screen out fakes. Okay. And that's it for that chapter. That was the shortest chapter. The other ones have more pages. Did you guys have any questions about that chapter? I think we had a good discussion about that chapter. All right, we're
I'm
gonna
good.
move.
It was
All
a
right.
good chapter. It was good.
Yeah, it was. All right, so 19, notary misconduct. So let's see. It occurs when a notary purposely or negligently violates a law, regulation, official directive, or expected standard of honesty. Okay. Because a notary is a public official held to a high standard of conduct, he or she may be subject to certain penalties, such as commission suspension or revocation. Even when an infraction had nothing to do with the notarization, but nonetheless cast doubt on the notary's integrity. That's scary. There are two major forms of notarial misconduct that every state prohibits. That's false certificates and the unauthorized practice of law. False certificates. That's interesting. So in every state, it is a criminal offense for a notary to knowingly make false statements in a notary certificate. Okay. Okay, so that makes sense. So, like when you're making your own certificates, because you know we can make our own certificates. If your state, because not all states do, if your state does have a state handbook online, you can just copy and paste the certificate wording onto a Word document and, you know, add your venue and add a signature line for you, the notary, and, you know, you can do that on your own. You don't have to purchase pre-made certificates. But you want to make sure that you are copying the verbiage verbatim. You don't want to add anything or omit anything. And that can be considered a false certificate, you know, but you can make your own. It's not illegal to do that. It's just that some companies make it easier by just making them for you and selling them. And we buy them because we don't feel like making them. So let's see. Important transactions in commerce and law depend on the truthfulness and accuracy of the notary certificate. So making a notary certificate, the Tennessee Supreme Court said, is an act which must, in the nature of things, be relied on with confidence by men of business. Those buying or taking security by way of liens on real estate ought not to be required to look with suspicion on such a certificate. So mistakes in certificates are caused by failure to understand the notary's duties. That's another thing too. If you're incorrectly filling out a certificate, that's like a big no-no. I'm not sure if they can, sue for that, but in any event, anything you do that can cause harm to a person can take legal suit. Let's just put it that way. So if they word it to where they're saying you caused them some type of harm, mental anguish or whatever, then it's your word against theirs,
Financial loss.
Say it again.
Financial loss.
Yeah, especially when it comes to loan signings, you not doing what you're supposed to do, because it's not so much, the errors are not being made on the loan documents itself. Notaries are making errors on their own certificates because they're not getting the training to learn how to fill out. That's why they tell you, make sure you're good at general notary before you do loan signings, because a part of general notary is knowing how to fill out your own certificates. You got to know how to fill out notary certificates. There's going to be a bunch of notary certificates throughout the package, affidavits, jurats, acknowledgments, and you need to know how to fill out the certificates. The loan documents are just what they are. It says borrower sign here. They're going to sign their date, or they're going to put their social or whatever. But your notary certificates, you should know how to fill them out without a question. If you're a notary, that is part of our job. You can't notarize a document without that notarial wording. And if you can't fill out a certificate, you should not be doing anything notary related until you learn how to fill out those certificates. Now, false personal appearance, saying that somebody appeared before you when they actually did not. That is falsifying a certificate, okay? False identity of a signer. Now, let me read this one so I can make sure. Notary certificates, particularly those for acknowledgments, often indicate how a signer's identity was established to the notary, whether by personal knowledge or satisfactory evidence. However, notaries sometimes will state that a stranger or barely known acquaintance is personally known. Yeah, you can't do that. You should not be saying you know them just because you want to do them a favor. All right, you don't have your ID. I'll just put on here, I know you. Don't do that. Don't do that, because it can come back on you. We never think, you do tons of transactions and you just never think in a million years that you're going to have to prove anything that has to do with that transaction. That's the importance of us keeping journals. And it'd be just your luck, a person that you didn't know, you put on there. So you put on here, you knew them. How long did you know them? Okay, so did you know that they did this, they go this, then, no, I did.
I remember. I'm sorry, Bishop. Go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, no, I was going to say
I remember being a notary in New York years ago. I had since moved to New Jersey. My mother had a call from someone who wanted to verify that I was the notary for that transaction, for that certification. I can't remember. It was a while ago. But I couldn't believe they tracked me down by way of my mom.
Wow.
Years later. So they do check, and I had to sign a certificate and get it notarized that I was the notary at that time. I worked for a law firm, so I can't even remember what it was for. But they wanted to verify that I was a notary, and that was many, many, many years later.
See?
So,
yeah, so you just never know. So everything that you do, you just want to make sure that you're doing it correctly and per the way the state wants you to do it. Okay? Cut no corners. It's not worth you losing your commission. It's just not. False date of notarization. We get this all the time, especially during loan signings. Documents got lost in transit. We need you to fill them out again and put the dates that you put on the documents when you notarize them the first time. I can't do that. I have to put the date that I notarize the document. I cannot backdate saying that I can't notarize today and said I notarized yesterday. I can't do it. It's against the law. You're not worth me losing my commission. You're just not. So the reason they do that is because they don't want to redraw up the documents and the terms. And I'm sorry, I can't do it. You're going to have to just redo the paperwork, and then we're just going to have to do it again. And it sets everything back. It sets back funding. It sets back them being able to close the deal. It could change the interest rate. I mean, it's so many different things that can happen when the documents are not turned in when they're supposed to be. You know, loan documents are time sensitive. Majority of them are anyway. Other certificate errors. There are many other occasions when a notary might be prompted to falsify information on a certificate. For example, a notary may have no knowledge that a signer is vice president of a corporation, yet be asked to complete a corporate acknowledgement certificate stating the person is known to me to be vice president. I think we talked about this some chapters ago too, where having to notarize for a person who is representing in a capacity other than individual. So definitely requesting to see that type of information and then writing in your notes that you did review it. That could just cover you. Even if it's not true, you still put in your notes, I reviewed a letterhead stating that this person is representative of this capacity. That's really all you can do, you know, and then have them sign like that. Because if it ever comes back, you know, how are you to know? It looked official and you made note of it.
Yeah, I think they even said that a business card isn't necessarily a legitimate supporting documentation because anybody can get a business card.
Yeah, usually what you will want to have is a letterhead, you know, with the logo or company, you know, information. I don't know, but you know, most of them would present it anyway, you know, but I have not had to do any notarizations for anyone who represented their self in a capacity other than attorney in fact or individual. So I wouldn't know how, you know, that goes, but I would personally approach it that way, have them verify some type of document stating that they are able to sign this capacity. It would just make me feel better about doing the transaction, you know. All right, unauthorized practice of law. And this gets thrown around a lot. There are just a lot of things that we don't want to do as notaries. We're not attorneys, you know, so unless you're in a state where you can draw up legal documents for people, or you never want to, you know, a person tells you, I got to do this. You never want to say, okay, then you're going to need to do this. You're not supposed to tell them how to do it. They come to you, they tell you what needs to be done, and you do what is within your jurisdiction only. So a lot of times people will post a document in the group. Oh, what type of certificate do you think I should use for this? It's not your job. You don't decide what certificate or notarization is to be done. You explain to them the most common ones that you would complete, which would be an acknowledgement or a jurat, and they have to choose. Even if they don't know, they still have to choose. And they can go a step further by asking the receiving party which one they prefer. And if they don't know, you can explain to them which one they have to choose. They just have to. Even if they choose the incorrect one, it has to be their decision, not yours. All right. And the next one, do not choose certificates. We just talked about that. Do not prepare documents. You know, you don't want to type up a document and then tell a person to sign it. No. If they want to type up a document, they can, you know, but I had a couple who they needed a letter for a child. They did not have access to a computer. I have a laptop and I have a printer. I have an office in my garage. So I allowed them to use my computer and my printer, but I made sure to put in the notes what transpired so that if that comes back, did you prepare? I did not prepare that document, but I did let them use my laptop and my printer to do so, but I did not prepare the document. And I have the notes in my journal. Because the document that they brought, I notarized it and it wasn't accepted by the customs or whatever. Their children were coming from Mexico here. And the document that I notarized, it didn't say that they were able to return. It only says that they were going to be leaving the US, which was weird because I was like, that's the document that they got off of travel.us.gov, I think is what the website is. So I was like, okay, well, whatever. So she was like, can you type? I said, I can't type up a letter for you. I was like, now I have my laptop. I can give you my laptop and you can do whatever you need to do. And then I'll notarize it for you. And so that's what happened with that. But no, I said, I cannot prepare any documents. I cannot give you any legal advice. If you know what needs to be done, then you can do what you have to do, but I can't do it. And here it goes, do not give advice. And what does that mean? And so, where do I sign, or am I the grantor or grantee, are loaded with potential liability? So, when we do loan signings, we have to tell them where to sign. So I don't know about that one. Tell them, are they the grantor or grantee? If you can't point to it and see which one they are, then you don't want to assume. No, I wouldn't do that. Areas prone to trouble: translating, supplying forms, typing dictated words. Yeah, all of that falls under the preparing documents, especially when a translator assists a signer not fluent in English in filling out a legal document. The translator should literally translate both the document and the signer's response without offering advice or significantly paraphrasing. A translator who is also a notary may not certify a translation and also notarize the certification. So if you are fluent in another language, you can't translate and notarize your translation. You can't do that. You can translate and they can have it notarized, or they can have it translated and then you can notarize, but you can't do both.
I just had a request. I had a request for service. The woman called me and her client didn't speak English, but she wanted me to notarize his motor vehicle, that new law, his motor vehicle license, and she would interpret. And of course, can't do that. She would translate for him.
Right.
So I had to decline the request.
Right.
I don't speak Spanish, and I can't, I can't determine whether or not he understands, even through her, what was communicated. So.
Right. You did right. You did right. Because no, you can't. All right. How notaries can help. One way to help signers seeking advice is to refer them to attorneys. I do that all the time. I have people come to me, they want to have documents notarized because they think that it will make them legal. And I have to explain to them that it will not. It will be just as legal as it was before you brought it to me. So if you want to get any advice, you should seek an attorney. And sometimes they're like, well, do you know of one? And I'll say, well, I Googled, there's a few in your area. If you want to, I can screenshot it and send it to you, but that's not all I can do. Everyone likes to be helpful, especially to clients, supervisors, and friends. However, the best way for notaries to avoid the unauthorized practice of law is to know the limits of their helpfulness. Know the limits of your state, and every state is different. The penalties for misconduct. Notaries who clearly understand the penalties that the law may impose for their misconduct will view the performance of any notarization with heightened seriousness. Exactly. I definitely don't want to lose my commission. So just like you, Terry, how you said, nope, I can't do it. Just can't do it. It's not all about the money at the end of the day. What's better? You get a quick $50 or you lose your commission. Seriously. Notaries are liable for their misconduct in performing any notarization. This means notaries are subject to administrative, criminal, and civil penalties for any wrongdoing. Any or all of these may be imposed for a single impropriety, although each may require a separate hearing or trial. So definitely don't want to be a part of that. Administrative penalties are revocation, suspension, and denial of a commission. Revocation voids the notary's commission, stripping the individual of all notary powers and making it unlikely that a commission will be issued to that person ever again. In some states, specified fines or mandatory education may be imposed on the notary for certain forms of misconduct. And the range of misconduct that can warrant administrative penalties is broad and varies from state to state. Punishable misconduct need not be directly related to notarization. And that's what we were saying, like, it may not be that, it may be them saying mental anguish, loss of money, because something didn't close when it was supposed to or something like that. But it must reflect on the notary's ability to perform a proper notarization. So the moral of that one is know how to fill out your certificates. Because if they determine that you didn't know how to perform your duties to begin with, oh boy. Okay. Wouldn't that be something they prove that you didn't know what you were doing to begin with?
Which is so confusing to me, because when you become a notary, it's like some states have tests you take, some you don't. It's just like a little 3-hour thing going about your business. And then you have to figure it out by reading books and stuff online, which is why it's so scary.
Yeah.
I agree.
I want to see somebody. I want to be with somebody and see. That way I know that I'm doing it right.
But every case is different. I mean, they're not all the same.
Yeah.
And you know what? People can read all they want. They can take all the training they want. But if they stop there, they haven't really learned anything. You can't just, somebody got to go on mute. It's not all about just doing the training and the reading. You actually have to move forward with making sure that you know what you've learned. And some people, they just stop there. They learn it and they do the training, they stop. They don't practice. You got friends and family you can practice with. You can pull up blank copies of documents that need to be notarized by Googling. People never taken a step forward to learn what it is that they, were trained to do. They just do the training and they jump right in, and then they make all these mistakes and they're like, well, I'm trained. Okay, and what does that mean? Doesn't mean anything. So definitely, you don't want to be put in a situation to where they prove that you were not able to perform your duty. Okay. You were not knowledgeable like you thought you were. Okay. Dishonesty. Any act that shows dishonesty or moral turpitude may bring an administrative penalty. The notary's integrity and incorruptibility must be beyond question, which means that, you could not have been knowingly dishonest. That's terrible. A notary who loses a professional license, such as a real estate credential, for lying to clients may have a notarial commission denied or revoked as a result. Loss of eligibility. Failure to maintain commission eligibility standards can cause revocation. Notaries found to have moved out of state or to have become unable to read or write will have their commissions revoked by most states. It is considered an act of misconduct for a notary to hide disqualifications from state officials. Yeah, that's a tough one. And then disobedience of authority. Failure to follow instructions from authorities can result in administrative penalties. For example, a state may prohibit notaries from making certified copies. If you're in a state that does not permit you to do that, you shouldn't be doing it. I can't witness signatures. I can't do a signature witnessing, which means that I can't take the credible, I can't take the oath of a person saying that yeah, I saw them sign this, and then they sign a document saying that they witnessed that. I can't do that. In some states you can, but I'm in Florida and I can't do that. So I'm not going to. Disobedience of law. Failure to comply with statute can result in administrative penalties. The non-compliance can be a violation of a state's notary law, such as failure to keep a journal. If your state says that you have to have a journal, Brayden, turn my office light on. Thank you.
Bria left because she had to go take a shower, and she said that she might come.
I'm on the booklet. Okay, I'm on a booklet meeting. Okay. What else was I saying? Oh, of a notary law, such as failure to keep a journal or overcharging for notary services. Some people, they forget that every state has their different fee schedule for notary. So they think that people are overcharging people. And it's like, no, if you're a state where you can charge travel and you also provide other services, you can charge for those services however you want. But you cannot charge whatever you want for your state fee if your state has a fee schedule you have to follow. So people are like, how are people getting $100 for doing general notary work? They're overcharging, and that's against the law. No, it's not. How many documents did they ask to have notarized? I have a person tomorrow I'm going to do a notary for. She needs 3 documents notarized. That's $30. I'm charging her $10 for travel. That's $40. It's an easy $40. Oh, but you can only charge $10. Yes, I can. And she has multiple documents, and I'm charging her $10 for each document that I have to apply my signature and seal to. Okay. What if I go there and she has 2 different type of packets that need to be done? That's going to be more money too. So you can't just be on there, oh, they're overcharging. You don't know. You don't know what was included in that notarial transaction. So you should not be saying that. I had a person contact me from Wellington needing a notary done. And I was going to drive to Wellington for her. That was going to be $50 for my travel. And she needed 2 documents. That was going to be $20, $70. Yes, I can do that. I charge my own travel fee. It's kind of far, and then she needed documents notarized. I'm charging my state fee, which is $10 per notarization. So yeah, when people are in the group and they're just, talking, and that's how I know you haven't done your research. You're not doing your research, because if you're not in their state, or if the person making the post hasn't posted their state, everybody is in the wrong. Everybody in the wrong. You got to post your state when you make a post, especially if you're asking state-specific questions. And then you can't hassle somebody, and harass them about something that they are doing that's allowed in their state. All right. Negligence. Failure to use a degree of care that is expected of a person of ordinary prudence and intelligence also can result in administrative penalties. The most common act of negligence is not properly identifying document signers. So you definitely want to make sure that we are identifying them correctly, and make sure some states have a list of allowed documents that you can use for identification. Make sure you have that list on you. I carry a copy on me. You don't want a person to just tell you, well, I got my work ID, here you go. You want to make sure that that's allowed in your state. Okay. Criminal penalties. Let's see what those will be. Less harmful crimes called misdemeanors are punished by a small fine or incarceration in a local jail. Let's see. But what will we do that will cause that? Most acts of criminal misconduct by notaries are classified as misdemeanors and are punishable by fines of less than $1,000 and or jail terms of less than 1 year. Although state laws differ in defining criminal misconduct by a notary, laws in virtually every state make it at least a misdemeanor for a notary to knowingly fill out a certificate with false information. Why would somebody do that? In addition, each of the acts in the following list are crimes in some states: destroying, defacing, or concealing a notary journal, Oh, failing to hand over a notary journal to officials upon resignation or removal from office, charging excessive fees for notary services. Oh, failing to post a schedule of fees. A lot of people don't do that. And they feel like, well, I don't want that on my website. I want them to call me. But if you don't have a storefront, your website is considered your storefront. You have to list your fees on your website. You have to. I don't want other people to see what I charge. You have to list your fees in your storefront, point blank. Performing notarization after commission expiration. Yeah, you don't want to do that. Making a false certificate and failing to surrender notary records are regarded by some states as felonies. Okay. Now, civil penalties. Potentially one of the most severe penalties involves a civil lawsuit against an offending notary by a person who suffered financial loss as a result of the notary's improper conduct. The object of such a suit is to recover the financial loss from the notary. Civil penalties are the subject of Chapter 20, Financial Liability. That's the next chapter. All right. Did anybody have any questions about Chapter 19? That was a very chapter. Very
I
good.
just have, Bridget, I just have one question. Do you or anyone here makes it a practice for general notary work to obtain the document that the client is looking to have notarized in advance?
Yes, I
To
do
the,
request
that
it. Yes, I do request to review it. And the way that I have my notary form, appointment form set up, it is a secure link where they can upload the document for me to review. And I'll get it in my email and then I'm able to review it because I've had a couple instances where a person thought they needed a notarization and they didn't. They just needed to sign it, so I saved them some money. I'm like, it doesn't need to be notarized. And then I'll explain to them why.
Okay.
And then they're like, oh, okay, I just thought it did. And I'm like, nope, it doesn't,
Okay.
So yeah.
Because I have been requesting. Okay.
Yes, there's nothing wrong with that. Now, for some people, they may not feel comfortable if it has some personal information on it, like socials and maybe their home address and stuff like that. They may feel uncomfortable, and that's perfectly fine. What I'll do is I'll ask them, what is the title of the document? And I'll Google it, and then I can see what it looks like.
Okay.
Like I had a retired military person. He needed to have his retirement withdrawal form notarized, and it had his bank account information on there and social of him and his wife. So he didn't feel comfortable with sending me that, which I perfectly understood. So what I did was I Googled the form so I could see what it was because I never heard of it before. And I was able to see what needed to be done then.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right, guys. So we're going to move on from chapter 19 to our last chapter, chapter 20, Notary Liability. Getting sued. For many notaries, the most intimidating penalty for misconduct is payment of personal funds as a result of a civil lawsuit. This is understandable. Not only do lawsuits threaten court verdicts or out-of-court settlements that require the notary to pay for damages, they also bring about attorney fees and other legal defense costs for which the notary is responsible. A civil lawsuit results when a private person, corporation, or other legal entity seeks to recover losses caused by a notary's alleged misconduct. In a lawsuit, the injured party initiating the suit is called the plaintiff. The party being sued is called the defendant. So, liability of the notary. A notary is personally liable for the full amount of damages caused by any misconduct in performing a notarization. So, for example, a forged and notarized trust deed is used as collateral for a $50,000 home equity loan. If the lending company cannot find the imposter and recover the money he or she borrowed, it likely would sue the notary for the $50,000. Yeah, that's messed up. If the notary had performed the improper notarization during employment, the lending company also could sue the notary's employer. The misconduct may be intentional or unintentional, but the notary is equally liable. The fact that a mistake was honest cannot prevent a lawsuit. For example, if a notary's failure to affix an official seal results in a deed's rejection by a recorder, causing a real estate transaction to fall through, didn't we just talk about this? The sales agent could sue the notary for the lost sales commission. Ain't that something? Yeah. And this is why it's important to get some type of training. You know, in the beginning, when I first started, I didn't want to pay for the training. I really didn't. I relied on YouTube. I got commissioned in the early part of July. I got my first 3 signings like 2 weeks after I was commissioned. And I did those without any training. And I was terrified. I was. I had a question about a document. I asked the one notary group that I was that I had joined on Facebook, and they butchered me. They butchered me. They made me feel like crap. I'm not a part of that group anymore. That's why I made my own group, actually. But after I did those 3 signings without training, I went ahead and invested in it because I was like, you know what? I know I'd be mad if I had a ill-prepared notary doing such an important transaction that I'm depending on to go through, and I get a call saying that the notary made a mistake because they had no training. Oh, I'd be PO. Okay, I really would. So I can resonate with what they're saying here. Now it says liability considerations. Many considerations affect the outcome of a civil lawsuit against a notary. Following are 3 of which every notary should be aware. Statute of limitations. Normally, a lawsuit must be filed against a notary within a specific period, typically 3 years from the date of the improper act. 36 months, that's a long time that they have that they can sue you if anything was done incorrectly because you were ill prepared or you made an error. In some cases, though, the period may extend from the date of discovery of the improper act. So it could be 3 years, I guess, from the date of the act, or 3 years from the time that they discovered it. Either way, that's a long time. That's a long time. But you can come back and, you know, sue me for a transaction that I probably don't even remember I did. Liability to all parties. Increasingly, courts are ruling that a notary is liable to all persons who rely on a notarized document, not just to a person or entity named in the document. So the people who the process was for, the people who worked to get the process created, that's a lot of people. That's a lot of people. Notary not sole cause. The notary's misconduct does not have to be the only or direct cause of damages. For example, a false notary certificate, which is considered a notarial error, and a false document, which is a forger's crime, together may cause a lender to accept a phony deed as collateral. So it wouldn't be your fault alone. You would still be liable, but not solely. It will be in part, you know, because you did notarize a false document that the person forged and brought to you. Then settling out of court. Most lawsuits against notaries never get to the trial stage. In many cases, out-of-court settlements are arranged by attorneys representing the plaintiff and defendant after all facts have been gathered through interrogatories and depositions. If there is a strong case against a notary, his or her attorney may advise settling out of court. So it's talking about the notary bond. We all know that the notary bond protects our signers, and that E&O insurance is what is supposed to protect us. So I won't go through that. If you're a notary already, you should already know about notary bonds. and errors and omissions insurance. We know the bond is for our signers, the E&O is for us. Now, coverage limits for E&O policies, they generally vary from 10,000 to 100,000. Some notaries have more. I've heard notaries have 500,000, they have $1 million. So just depends. Attorney fees. An advantage of most E&O policies is that they arrange for and absorb the cost of a sued notary's defense, which means that they're covered in attorney fees. That's a good thing. E&O insurance many notaries purchase E&O insurance mainly to avoid out-of-pocket expenses too. And let's see, reasonable care. The notary's best defense against a lawsuit is use of reasonable care. Just make sure you doing everything right. So you don't have to go through that at all. Let's see, ordinary prudence, not average practice. I'm not going to go through that because that basically just goes through everything we already talked about. Taking a reasonable care, making sure you know what you are doing before you perform your duties to the public. Don't perform duties to the public and you don't know what you're doing. If you have any inkling of a doubt, like I said, practice with your friends, practice with your family, Google documents that need to be notarized and print them out and mess around with them. Notarize them, act like you're, servicing a customer. That's the best thing to do. Just practice as much as you can. Making sure that you follow all the steps, from identifying your customers to keeping journal record, making sure your journal records are reflective of the transaction. Take notes. If you got to take notes, take notes. Nothing wrong with taking notes. Make sure you have a journal that has a note section. All right. And that's it. We did it. We got through 3 chapters, y'all. What time is it? And we did it in an hour. What? That's yes.
I printed it. It's like 100 pages. The NNA has the code of conduct, which is very detailed. I guess it's the United States. I mean, it covers every state, but it's the code of conduct for notaries.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
It's about 100 pages long, and it really just breaks everything down in detail. The Notary Public Code of Professional Responsibility. And their version it looks like the most recent is 2020. So that's a good document to have on your person. If you're a notary.
Yeah, I have it downloaded. I wouldn't print it. That's a lot of pages to carry around with you, but I do have it downloaded on my computer.
File.
Yep. Yeah, it is a good piece of information to have. All right, well, we are done. So what we're going to do is we're not going to meet next week. We're going to meet the week after because I want to finish this book. So we're going to be covering 4 chapters, the last 4 chapters of this book. Okay. And that is going to be 21 to 24. Okay. And it should be easy to do, just like we did tonight. So we're going to meet, what's today's date? Let me get my calendar up.
Thank you.
Not the 7th, but the 14th. So we will meet on the 14th, guys, and we're going to be covering chapters 21 through 24, and then we will be done with this book. Okay? We're going to be done. And then I'm going to take a break.
What will the next book be?
The next book is going
All
to be...
right, you guys, have a good night.
All right, bye, Angelica.
Bye.
The next book is, I forgot, it's Professor Clausen's Notary Best Practices.
Okay.
I think that's what it is. It's on the NNA's website, though. That's going to be our next book. And we're going to take a break. We're going to take a break in between books, okay? Because I don't want to jump right into the next book. I want to give everybody a chance to order it. And then we're going to set up. We're probably not going to do the same day and time anymore because a lot of people were complaining they were missing it. So I want to get a general consensus of a good day and time for the next book so that more people can attend. I'm really excited to read that book because I have not read that book. I've read this book before. I read it when I first got commissioned. But this other book I have not read before, so I'm looking forward to covering it with you guys.
Awesome.
All right, so September 14th will be the next time that we meet, and we're going to cover chapters 21 through 24.